Morning and welcome to this special press conference called by the leader of the opposition's office here in St. Lucia. Welcome to members of the media. I want to as well acknowledge the presence of the leader of the opposition, Honorable Alan Shasney, as well as the chairman of the United Workers' Party, Mr. Terrell Prudent, as well as the public relations officer of the United Workers' Party, Mr. Spider Montoot, who is about to join us. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and good morning. Welcome to Facebook viewers who have joined us from all parts of the world. We've received a lot of messages asking about the start of this morning's proceedings. We hold this press conference on the eve of the SLP's third year anniversary, which, to be exact, will be sometime on Friday, when the country would have had this misfortune of changing the government to the St. Lucia Labour Party administration. Since then, most St. Lucians will agree that we have seen an upsurge in crime which continues to rock the very existence of our country. Just yesterday, we had received news reports of another homicide in the community of Babano. And before that, over the weekend, we received news of a police shooting in Ancillary. We do, of course, express our sincerest condolences to those families. But at the same time, we continue to be very concerned about the level of ill-preparedness, the level of inadequate response from the St. Lucia Labour Party administration. They cannot continue to tell us that they are not police officers and it is not their job. We elected them to lead, and lead they must. And if they can't lead, then the suggestion is call elections, get out of government, resign, pass on the portfolio to other people who can do the job. So the crime situation is one of major national development, which continues to grip and threaten the very existence of our country. And so we must not accept from the St. Lucia Labour Party administration the very lukewarm and weak responses to the crime situation thus far. Today, I want to invite the chairman of the United Workers' Party, Mr. Terrell Prudent, who is no stranger to you, ladies and gentlemen, who will speak on some of the party issues, those issues of candidates, our 60th anniversary, where we are with restructuring our constituency branches. He will give you that very comprehensive update. And then a little later on, we will hear from our PRO, Mr. Spider Montoot, and our deputy political leader, Guy Joseph, along with the leader of the opposition. Please help me welcome the chairman of the United Workers' Party, Mr. Terrell Prudent.
Thank you, Dom, and I want to say a hearty welcome to all of the media houses represented here today. I generally want to talk about the party, the United Workers' Party, in terms of our preparations for the next elections, in terms of what's happening within our own organization called the United Workers' Party, UWP. I want to update you in terms of our own internal elections, meaning that we've had elections in all 17 branches. We've elected new executives throughout, and these are the persons that are going to be working hand in hand with the party to be able to push the agenda forward for the next 2 years and to be able to unseat this government, which should have gone a long time ago. We've also had elections with our caucuses in New York, in Canada, and so forth. And so we're bringing everybody in line in terms of what the United Workers' Party is currently doing, and that is good, and which is restructuring our branches, restructuring our caucuses, making sure that everybody is on the same page. We've also completed all of our internal reviews. And so we have a clear sense right now in terms of what was done wrong in the last elections and what needs to be done moving forward so that we are adequately prepared to wage a serious campaign against the St. Lucia Labour Party. We're excited. We in the UWP are excited about our candidate selection process. We've had a number of persons who have actually applied to be candidates for the United Workers' Party. So I can say to you, if an election was held right now, we would have absolutely no issue in terms of having persons run for the United Workers' Party. And let no one believe that we are not ready, but we have choices. And so as we go through this process, we want to be able to give the United Workers' Party and the people of this country the best men and women who can represent the party and represent the country. And you can rest assured that the United Workers' Party is on that. And at the end of the day, we want men of honor, men that persons who are honest, persons who you don't have to say that, talk about them in derogative ways, persons that you can be proud of, which is why we are taking our time to do all of the necessary background checks, to be able to do all of the vetting so that we can present to you, the people of St. Lucia, men of character and women of character, as part of the team that will take the United Workers' Party all the way to victory in the next elections. We also have, a lot of you are asking, what are we doing? There are a lot of internal stuff happening within the party right now. We are also having our ground game, which is what you call the chairman's drive, where we will fan out throughout every constituency, every hamlet, every town, every village of this country to convince the people of St. Lucia why we in the United Workers' Party, we're the best vehicle and the best political organization to take St. Lucia forward after the next elections. And we want to put the St. Lucia Labour Party on alert. Let your heart not be troubled. And what I mean, let your heart not be troubled, is you believe that you are doing everything that's right for this country. But I want to say to you that we will take you to task. United Workers' Party will take you to task for all of the wrong things that you have done in this country. And we see the way that you have continued to struggle in terms of governance in this country, the dishonesty with CIP, the dishonesty with a whole lot of other things that we will be talking about today. I am saying to you, we will take you on, and we will take you head on the eve of your anniversary, which is your 3rd anniversary. I want to talk about very quickly about the 60th anniversary of the United Workers' Party. We've been in existence for the last 60 years. We've been in government for 40 years. Out of that 40 years, anyone who can speak and will speak the truth can attribute that most of what have been done in this country, the infrastructural development, healthcare, education, all of that is the work of the United Workers' Party. So we don't need to boast. We don't need to pretend that we are doing much better, but we know that we have done much better than the Labour Party have ever done in terms of the development of this country. And so we want everyone to understand United Workers' Party will be ready, is ready, whenever that next election is called, so that we as a party can help to pilot and move our beautiful country into safe harbor, which is under the leadership of none other but Alan Michael Chasney. Thank you, and I just want to say a very big thank you and shout out to those in the diaspora and to all of our supporters from far and near. The United Workers' Party is on the verge of getting set, ready for the next elections. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you there. That was Chairman, the very fiery Terrell Prudent, who hails from the north of the country. So it's not just in the south where we have fire, we also have fiery people in the north of the country. Thank you very much for that update, Mr. Prudent. And I'm looking forward to, like you, the announcement of the candidates, which will be very soon. And I do agree that the slate is a very, very exciting slate of young people, competent people, diverse backgrounds, professionals from various walks of life, which really promises to be very exciting. The last 3 years, not only has crime been bad, but also cost of living in this country has to be among the worst we have seen. While countries like St. Kitts and Grenada would have contained the prices of goods and services and general commodities that people needed, we see that in our economic and social review that between the year 2023 and the year 2022, cost of living in St. Lucia went up by 10.5%, which is a massive number. The review said that on items like food and so on, they went up by at least 17 to 20%. On building materials, in some instances, it went up by 100%. So we see that the people of St. Lucia, because of the lack of management of the cost of living situation in the country, has had to confront one of the most difficult periods in their history, the cost of living situation in the country. As a result, bread, gas, cooking gas, food, utilities, bus fares, they all went up on the backs of the people of St. Lucia. Other countries would have had subsidies. They would have had income support for those individuals. So they didn't talk about income support. We are very disappointed that the Philip J. Pierre administration only acquiesced to giving you income support when the opposition had to make noise about it for 3 years before he can admit that he did promise in the election campaign that he was going to give out income support. So I really commiserate with you, the people of St. Lucia. Every time I see you in the supermarkets and you see the price tags on various commodities, it gives you a certain sense of stress. Not only do you need financial therapy right now, but a lot of people need psychological counsel because of how overbearing this situation is in the country. So, without any further ado, I want to call on our first deputy political leader, Mr. Guy Joseph, to address you this morning on a range of issues that is affecting the country. I want to also use this forum, before Guy comes on, to announce that on Sunday, the United Workers' Party will have an activity where we will be rating this government. We will be going deeper into the issues. Today is just a snippet of what we have come here to talk to you about. But on Sunday, we will be again taking the airwaves to ensure that we keep this government accountable. Please stay tuned for that announcement and for which stations we will be broadcasting live on, where we will hear from our political leader, we will hear from our chairman, our first deputy political leader, and other leaders of the party, where we will be advocating on behalf of you, the people of St. Lucia, clearly disappointed with the last 3 years. I give to you the first deputy leader of the United Workers' Party, Mr. Guy Joseph.
Thank you very much, Senator Dominic. Pleasant good day to persons of the media. It is with mixed feelings and emotions that I stand to address you today on being close to the eve of the last election victory by the St. Lucia Labour Party, the people of St. Lucia spoke at the polls, having high expectations of a government that was elected with an overwhelming mandate. But today, as we reflect upon 3 years of governance by the St. Lucia Labour Party under the leadership of Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre, you can walk through the length and breadth of St. Lucia, and it is indeed a hopeless situation that we are facing. What is it that we can look at after 3 years in government? What is it we can celebrate as a people in terms of achievements, accomplishments, or the basics of making life better for the average St. Lucian? All we have seen is hardship under this Philip J. Pierre-led administration. And we can run through the list. We cannot even talk about healthcare. Healthcare is at its lowest in St. Lucia. Everybody knows that there are not basic medication. And as I speak to you today, I can verify that part of the reasons why we don't have medication is because the government has not been paying its bills. And I will not disclose my source of information, but I know that even legal letters had to be written to the government to pay suppliers for the medication and the other supplies that they make available to the healthcare system. That is how bad it is. Then we move to general way of living. We have seen all the increases in government taxes, but we have not seen an improvement in the lives of the people of this country. And I know that people voted Labour with the hope of getting the 1-5. Never materialized. In fact, when they were saying they had given so many thousands of people, the budget figures reflected that they had given less than 300 people the 1-5. So, as we reflect, and we would have this week going into next week with a series of activities to reflect what has been done or achieved by this government. All I see is hardship on the people of St. Lucia. And I want to ask the simple question. What can we hope for? Is there anything better to look forward to? If after 3 years the government cannot deliver on any of its promises, what is it that we can expect? And I will narrow down my presentation today in a couple of areas. First of all, let us look at infrastructure in this country. As we speak today, and it didn't start under the Labour government, but the number of government offices that are mold infested, that hundreds of St. Lucian workers are getting sick in these buildings. And people continue to work on rotation from home after 3 years in government of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Yet still, this basic infrastructure has not been addressed. We have a Millennium Highway, which started almost 4 years ago under a minister who achieved so much in road construction under the previous UWP administration. The question remains, why is Steve unable to deliver on the projects that his ministry is spearheading. And that is for every St. Lucian to see. I go around the cul-de-sac roundabout almost. I have never seen a roundabout anywhere in the world that has taken so long to be built. Nobody can explain, other than Stephenson King and the Philip J. Pierre administration. I don't think anybody else in the world can explain why a simple roundabout should take us 4 years to be built. Why the repairs, and we are not talking the rehabilitation of 3 miles of road, should take us 4 years, and there is no completion in sight. How many dates? When the Prime Minister himself, Philip J. Pierre, went on site, a date was given, a timeline was given for the completion of the Millennium Highway. All of you in St. Lucia, you drive there. But if Alan Chasney was in government today, minibus drivers would have gone on strike. The public would have protested the inability of the government to execute a project of that nature. Now remember, we're just talking about the Millennium Highway. But the project is from the Millennium Highway to Soufrière. And we have seen what Namalco is doing on the road. I have seen walls that have taken 4 to 5 months. Simple walls that are 6 feet high and still incomplete. So are we looking at another 10 years under the St. Lucia Labour Party before that road can be completed between cul-de-sac to Soufrière? And if you remember what happened on the Southwest Coast Road under the Labour Party government, where the project moved from the cost of $43 million to over $100 million. Is that what we expect on that Millennium Highway and that highway, the West Coast Road, from Cul-de-sac Junction to Soufrière? A bridge is completed more than a year waiting for a road to be connected to it. And yet still we have a minister who is defined as a senior minister. We have a prime minister who was a former minister of infrastructure in this country. And the combination of the two together have resulted in disastrous situations with our road network. Right there in Badney, a tree was planted in the middle of the road. A road that had been assigned under the previous UWP government, the contract had been issued to Nationwide for building that road or for repairing that road, and works was already started on that road. Why did it stop? And where is the money in the $50 million that was allocated to that road? Mr. King and Mr. Prime Minister, you have to explain to the people of St. Lucia the money for the road from Lacqua back to Odsa. Which road did you divert it to? Was it diverted to the road from the Mondidon Road back to Bocage? And is it a situation where the people there don't have representation in Castries Southeast? The airport project, what has happened? Minister King was at the sword turning ceremony for the airport project. He did not object to the project. He stood in Parliament and explained and defended why his government, the UWP at the time, was proceeding with the airport project at the time. Never once did he raise a concern about the size of the airport, about the cost of the airport. In fact, he explained all the benefits of the project. He changed sides, he switched over to the Labour Party, and all of a sudden what was good became bad. But I can simply say to St. Lucia, there's one common denominator, Stevenson King. And if anything is bad for St. Lucia, it is Stevenson King, not the project. Because he's the one who changed position. So that's on the airport. We want an update on what is happening with the airport. Has the project been terminated? And if it has been terminated, how much will it cost the people of St. Lucia? As other projects that have been terminated is costing the St. Lucians a hefty sum. The Castries-Grosile Highway. How much has the government paid so far for the incomplete road? I think the responsibility is on both the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Infrastructure, who have reversed roles, because one time Minister King was the Minister of Finance, Mr. Pierre was the Minister of Infrastructure. Today, Prime Minister is Pierre and Minister of Infrastructure is Stevenson King. Tell us what happened with the contract. And you terminated the contract, you stopped the contract, claiming that the designs were flawed and you were doing a review. Why are you still paying for a project that you stopped? You need to tell the people of St. Lucia why this is happening. GPH, there's one common denominator, or two common denominators, if we can have that. Philip J. Pierre and Stevenson King. Minister of Finance, Minister of Ports. Why was our port given away to GPH for a meager sum of $1 per passenger when we were making $6.50 for every cruise ship passenger that arrived in St. Lucia? And to put it in a nutshell, the government of St. Lucia was making in excess of $4 million a year, US dollars, on passenger head tax at the ports. Today, the government's earnings has been reduced to $1 per head, which means that if you have 1 million passengers, you will only make $1 million. It means for St. Lucia to return to its previous earnings on GPH, you would have to have over 4.5 million cruise ship passengers. The projections for GPH in the medium term, which is 15 years, would be the medium term of a 30-year arrangement, we would only be making $1 million. So, why did you give away all this revenue? I think, Mr. Prime Minister, on the eve of your 3rd anniversary as Prime Minister and Minister King as Minister of the Ports, when you will address your achievements and your accomplishments, the people of St. Lucia need to know what the deal is with GPH. So, we've highlighted the Millennium Highway, the airport, the Castries-Grosile Highway, the West Coast Road, the ports. We've not even gone into the community roads. I mean, can you believe that the Viesique Road was closed for about a month, only to find that the thing that was done was a small retaining wall in one area on the Viesique Road? Something that could be done in less than a week. And we see potholes, we see more potholes. Today, motorists, they have to be competing with grass, shrubs, and trees along the sides of the road. We have never seen our side roads so overgrown. double lane roads have been reduced to single lane roads because the grass is overtaken. Maybe, as this government is famous for their STEP program, maybe the STEP will bring us some relief for a month, but we are in the rainy season. Minister King and Prime Minister, why did you wait after the first hurricane approached St. Lucia to begin the desilting program? Is it because there is no money for desilting? Is it because where the people live that floods does not matter to this government? I mean, just last week I saw them desilting Bois d'Orange, an area that was always desilted well ahead of the hurricane season under UWP government. Most of Bexon, Mac and Crownlands area, Odsa, has not been touched with desilting by the present government. Are we waiting for the people's houses to be flooded for this to be addressed? A simple matter, which is a recurring program. You don't have to plan for it. Every single government over the years have been doing desilting, but UWP has done more in desilting than any other government in this country. The UWP government under Alan Chasney spent more money in desilting than any other government because we understood the dangers that the water can pose to people. And so, I move to my other subject area because all St. Lucians are feeling the impact of the roads. We continue to pay a high price for fuel, which means that the government is not only making $150 that they can spend on the road, they are making more than $3 that can be spent on the road. And overall, the government must be making about $6 on every gallon of fuel that is sold in this country. So the motorists, the people, they are feeling the impact. And even if the road don't have potholes in some areas, they have put so many patches, and it is so bumpy that you cannot tell the difference between a bumpy road and a road with potholes. You promised so much as the Labour Party, and you have delivered on so little. And I move to the issue of the special prosecutor. In St. Lucia, it ought to be you are innocent until proven guilty. But for some of us, you are guilty until proven innocent. Because the way the Labour Party operates, when they accuse you, it's as if what they have accused you of is true. And so, a special prosecutor has been paid, or is being paid, every month to run an office, and we have not heard a single report, a single statement. As the media try to approach the office of the special prosecutor to find out what is going on. Now, you may think that some of us are nervous. We are not nervous. We are concerned about how the limited resources of this country is being spent. And more so, I have said to the special prosecutor, I am available. Whenever you want to speak to me, I am available. I can save you a lot of trouble. All the information you have, you need pertaining to me, I can give it to you. The Prime Minister went out and announced in a New Year's address 2 years ago that he had re-engaged Robert Lindquist, and the media should be able to pull it up. So you paying Robert Lindquist, you paying special prosecutor, you have 3 ministers responsible for crime, law enforcement. But you could not pay $40,000 a month to have the K9 unit continue to operate in St. Lucia. Less than $500,000 a year would have reduced our crime and our infiltration of illegal firearms and drugs in this country. And we were seeing that the K9 unit was paying for itself and raising additional revenue for the government through the intervention and the cases, the people that was caught in illegal activity. But the government stopped it, allow all what they wanted to happen, and now they want to restart the process with another K9 unit. How much damage has been done through your bad decision, Mr. Prime Minister? So I hope that the special prosecutor, because these games that are played in this country needs to stop. On the eve of elections, you will want to run in and say, oh, we have this and we have that and we have the other. What is going on at this moment? That is what the people of St. Lucia need to know. And so, as I round off my presentation, I will touch on one final matter. There's a video circulating with the Minister of Housing claiming that contractors were not paid by the Alan Chasney administration and how he had to go and plead with Philip J. Pierre to make the money. Is that all you can do to make Philip J. Pierre look good? Is that all you can do to make the Prime Minister look good? I mean, this cheap politics, and these are statements of lies. These are not factual statements. And I can challenge that because I was the Minister of Housing. And I can safely say that this was a project that was tendered. There were no hand-picked contractors. And since the minister took the liberty to name Dean Nicholas and James Cobb as the contractors, I want to ask him, Renault was the third contractor. Why was Renault paid under the same terms and same conditions and the other contractors have not been paid? Mr. Minister, I want you to answer this question because I know Renault was paid more than a year ago. And to say the projects were incomplete when UWP left office. And it was a project on the Proud which was financed by CDB, if my memory serves me right, and we had limited time to use the resources. When the Labour Party came in, they stopped most of the projects. And I am saying, when a government gets to the point of so much desperation that ministers have to come and tell lies in the parliament to try and make a prime minister look good, look caring, this tells us that we are in serious trouble under this government. And between round table tomorrow and our live broadcast on Sunday, we will disclose a lot more about the incompetence and the bad management of this Labour Party administration. I thank you.
Thank you very much there, Mr. Guy Joseph, as fiery as usual, true to form as they will say. I don't want to say much more, only but to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Spider Montut, who will briefly touch on a very important matter, and then we're going to go straight into our political leader and leader of the opposition. So Mr. Spider Montut, our PRO, will briefly address you.
Thank you very much, Senator Montut, and good morning to everyone. Senator Fede, and good morning to all of you present here, members of the media and listeners here and in the diaspora. Now, just an issue that is of grave concern that I want to raise this morning. As most of you would have seen sometime during the course of last week, a documentary that surfaced, Untold Stories, entitled Catfish, in which there was an interview conducted with a former government minister, Dr. Eurodus Raymond. Now, my concern is not so much the interview or the issue centered in the interview, but some startling revelations that were made here that indicates once again that the government of St. Lucia is in the middle, is involved in some scandalous issue. In that documentary, reference were made to two sitting government ministers, two members of parliament, and it suggests that those two government ministers may have been conspirators in blackmail. And I do not know how many of you appreciate the fact that in St. Lucia, blackmail is a crime. So it is very concerning that information is being revealed to suggest that two government ministers could be conspiring to blackmail an individual, whether it be for political gain or for financial gain. Now, when I looked at the documentary, the two ministers, one of them was actually mentioned, and that is the Honorable Joachim Henry, as one of the individuals involved. And they showed pictures of players involved in the whole scheme, and two government ministers, pictures of two government ministers were shown, that is the Honorable Joachim Henry and the Honorable Richard Frederick. Now, what is very disturbing is that those gentlemen don't only sit in our parliament, but they are members of our cabinet. These are people who make laws for this country. And as such, you have to determine whether you are a lawmaker or you are a lawbreaker. And to engage in conspiring to blackmail, that in itself is totally unacceptable, especially given the office that these gentlemen hold. Now, further to that, there are clips in the public domain going around on social media where the names of Joachim Henry and Richard Frederick are explicitly mentioned as being part of and involved in a scheme to blackmail Dr. Eurodus Raymond, along with some young women. That, I think, is very serious. That must be dealt with, and something must be done about it. Now, to exacerbate the situation, to add insult to injury and to make the matter far worse, there is also a clip indicating that the Prime Minister himself is involved. It is said in that clip that Philip J. Pierre is not doing the dirty work himself. He is having Joachim Henry to do the dirty work for him. Now, these are damning allegations that we cannot just overlook. These are the leaders of our country. And I would like that the Prime Minister address those issues immediately. Already, the image and reputation of St. Lucia has been tarnished by the many scandals that this government is already involved in. I think this will be too much. So, I am calling on Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre to come out and clear his name. Let us know what he knows about those allegations of conspiracy to blackmail. Let us know what he knows about it, and to tell us what he is going to do about the fact that two of his government ministers were mentioned in that criminal activity. Now, I want to remind the Prime Minister of his own words, that he will not tolerate any form of corruption in his cabinet, and that if any of his government ministers are fingered in any act of corruption or illegality, that he would take action. So, now is the time for action. We await your reaction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear Spider, for raising this issue, a very crucial one. This really is about the integrity of the people that are in government. We want to make sure that there's no cloud of doubt over the persons that we put to lead our government over areas of very important areas of development for our nation. Lastly, we're going to invite the leader of the opposition, fresh from a few weeks of vacation, a few weeks of rest. So I'm sure that he's going to be even more fiery than what you saw from Guy and Terrell and Spider. So in the interest of time, I will invite our political leader, the leader of the United Workers' Party, the next Prime Minister of St. Lucia, and the parliamentary opposition in Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Master of Ceremonies, Senator Dominic Fede. Other members who are here with us today, the chairman of our party, Mr. Prudent, deputy political leader, Mr. Guy Joseph, and the PRO of the party, Mr. Spider Leonard Montoute. Each person today, in my opinion, has given reasons why, after 3 years of this SLP administration, there's one factual statement we can make. They do not know how to govern this country of St. Lucia. Our country is going backwards. The cry of SOS, save our St. Lucia, is on everyone's tongues. People are not recognizing this country anymore. We're living in an environment of fear, an environment in which government's authority is being abused to the extent of intimidating and victimizing citizens of this country. And every day we discover more and more. I want to bring up a couple of issues. First of all, we recently saw a statute instrument where it was announced that a development in the north was going to be waived of having to pay the 2.5% health and security levy. It was shocking that a government that introduced this levy almost a year and a half ago, a government that told the people of this country that this levy was necessary to help strengthen national security and to help strengthen health. Two critical things in developing a country. Two areas that people are being affected so dramatically in the areas of health and national security. And despite the warnings that by introducing this tax, that it would have a severe impact on the cost of living of the people of this country, the Prime Minister's response was, we all need to make a sacrifice. Not just middle class, not just business people, but the most vulnerable in our society were not spared this tax. We warned the government that the structure of the tax, even though it was not directly placed on food, it would cause the price of food to go up. It didn't take long. The inclusion of services, people's phone bills, people's cable bills, people's legal bills, general services, all went up in price. So the sacrifice that the Prime Minister was making reference to was real and was significantly more meaningful for poor people. Because proportionately, they were paying more. You would have thought the Prime Minister would have understood that we were recovering from COVID, that we needed to continue to grow the economy, that by putting this tax on, it would temper that growth, which it did. We saw the growth of the economy go from 12% to 18%, down to what? 2%. We told the Prime Minister, by introducing this tax, it would cause the cost of living to go up. It did. There's no argument, no discussion. The tax had a direct impact on affecting people's lives in this country. And the sacrifice was real. He ignored all of that. We told the Prime Minister that this tax would impact the ability of people to continue to invest in this country. Dismissed it. Rubbish. And what this government did now is a reflection on truly the truth about who the Labour Party is and what their priorities are. That is what this has shown us. So after making the people make the sacrifices, after knowing what the impact on the cost of living was going to be and the cost of services in this country, after knowing that it slowed down the economy, you still did not see it fit to change the tax, or better yet, to eliminate it entirely. A businessman comes to you and convinces you that he cannot make an investment having to pay that tax. That when he calculates to putting in the 2.5% for the services and for all the cost of goods and all the suppliers he's going to have, it would be impossible for him to make the investment. Any person who wants to be a leader of this country, who genuinely says that they care about the people, who are genuinely concerned about a development plan that's going to promote progress in this country, and progress means for all. Any Prime Minister that's worth anything, after now understanding that the price of food went up, the impact it was having on the economy, and now being convinced by a businessman that he cannot make the investment because of the tax, you would have thought that what he would have done is to drop the tax immediately. Because I think anyone with a good conscience, anyone who wants the best for St. Lucia and St. Lucians, that would be the obvious conclusion. No. No. They put out an SI on Friday before Carnival. The oldest trick in the book. While everybody is distracted, let me just put something out. To waive the 2.5% tax for that investor, this is not the investor's fault. And the manner in which they've waived it has also raised significant questions as to whether legally they can waive the 2.5% levy for one person. Because the same act that they make reference to, in our opinion, and the lawyers that we've spoken to, does not give them that ability. It gives them the ability to either increase the tax, the levy, or reduce it. For everyone. If they now know that investors are being impacted, then the 2.5% should be waived for all investors, not just one. But as the United Workers' Party would say, we think that they should have gone a step further in now recognizing the need to waive it for investment, waive it for everyone else. Waive it for everyone else. But this again speaks to the secrets. Did he come out and tell us? Hey, when he was doing the groundbreaking for the investment, did he come out and tell the people of St. Lucia, in order to have gotten this investment, I had to waive the 2.5%? That is the secret. That is the secret. That is the essence of every single thing that you see with this government. It's a secret. And when people discover the secret, it then becomes lies and propaganda. Secondly, something that has to raise every single alarm bell that's available to us. And that is what's taking place with national security in this country. We've had as many as 4 people at one time in charge of national security. Today we have 3. At no point has the government come out to explain to us how it is structured. In fact, we had to get another secret, that Home Affairs and Immigration were being separated from the police. You would have thought something as important as that the government would have come out and said something. Nothing. It was kept as a secret. A couple of weeks ago, the DPP came out and held a press conference. The information that he provided to us was damning, and as a citizen of this country, outright scary. The DPP clearly stated that he had done investigations and had asked the Commissioner of Police, the police force, to make certain arrests. And that did not happen. The DPP was very clear to say that on very visible cases where most of the general public had believed that the DPP's office was investigating the matter, to find out that the Commissioner of Police and the police had never even sent the file over. This is our police force. This is what is going by as a national security of this country. To find out, it's one thing to suspect that that's what's taking place. But for to have the DPP to come out and to make those pronouncements, the Commissioner of Police said she was going to come out and give a press conference. We're still waiting. Is it right that we should wait this long? Is it sufficient for us to remain silent? Are we to be satisfied that the DPP coming out to say what he said is somehow going to solve the problem? That none of the ministers responsible for national security have passed comment? The Bar Association? Civil society? No one has seen the need to raise alarm bells? This is a crisis. And in the last week, thinking that that was bad enough, what do we hear? We see a letter being leaked or a report being leaked from the police, highlighting persons that they suspect or giving backgrounds to criminals in this country. This is the exact same situation that the Labour Party accused the United Workers' Party all the way back in 2010 of having a hit list. Is that what's going on? Who leaked it? Was it leaked deliberately? Or was it leaked out of frustration? Why was that document leaked? And there's been no denial of the authenticity of that document. But it adds to the chaos that's taking place in national security. We've heard last week that the Commissioner of Police commenced an investigation into the Deputy Commissioner, and rightfully so, as per the allegations of sexual abuse within the police force against police officers. And what we've been informed is that she could not see justice in this being done by the police force, and solicited the support and the involvement of the regional police force. And that the Prime Minister and the Deputy Commissioner who the investigation was being brought against did not know. And when they found out, they decided they were going to send the Commissioner on leave and not renew her contract. So here it is, her contract is supposed to be coming up on August 31st. She was brought back in because there were too many allegations that were unanswered about the Deputy Commissioner himself. And the year that she came in for was supposed to be used to conduct that investigation, to make a determination one way or the other. We've been provided with no information. In fact, the information that we're providing is the investigation has started late in the game, and the person who has instituted the investigation is now being penalized for that. And to make matters worse, the number of homicides continue to go unabated and unanswered. This is in national security. This is a core element of a state to provide. The third thing is what's taking place in CIP. I want to reiterate again. The CEO, Mr. Emmanuel, needs to be fired immediately. You cannot have a situation where he came and provided information to say that he went to Washington, D.C., representing the CIP unit. And the Prime Minister came back out and said he was not, he was representing himself. So who's lying? And if he went to represent the CIP unit, why would he have gone with his wife? And if he went up there by himself, why would he have gone when he's a defendant in the case? We've continuously asked this government to provide information about the infrastructure program and also the real estate program. How many files has the government given permission to Galaxy to sell under the infrastructure program? Under our administration, it was 700. It is reported by MSR that in the interview that the CEO had, he claimed, he made the statement that Galaxy was given 7,000 files to sell for the infrastructure program. He was also said that Galaxy was given 7,000 files to sell for the infrastructure program. The Minister of CIP came out in a typical lie and propaganda to mama guy everybody, to tell you what, oh, we've only approved 1,300. So what? How many files were allocated? And if you've said that Galaxy has sold all of the files already for infrastructure, for the real estate program, that means that you have what, 5,500 files pending approval. but applications are already in. We've asked you a simple question. Where is the money going for the infrastructure program? We know the money for the real estate program is going into an escrow account. Where is the money for the infrastructure program going in? And this is now the connection with MSR. I want to repeat, the opposition holds no candle or any torch for MSR. MSR is in their own fight. But MSR has brought two separate cases up against CIP in St. Kitts and now St. Lucia. The first case is RICO. That's a case being filed in the United States of America, alleging that the government knew that citizenships were being sold under the statute amount. So if the statute amount says it must be, the minimum price is $100,000, they claim that that was being sold for less than $100,000. And that because it was obtained unlawfully, when that money was transferred through the U.S. banking system, it becomes now an offense in the United States of America. And that's why the RICO case is taking place in the States. Yesterday, I found out that the subpoena that MSR had applied in the States for Bank of America and also, I believe, Chase Manhattan Bank, which had been denied, but it was denied on the technicality, that MSR has since reapplied, amending the technicality, and the courts now have approved the information being subpoenaed from the Bank of America and Chase Manhattan. And that's to add to the information they already have. But the most damning case that is ongoing now, and the one that has the greatest implications for St. Lucia, is the judicial review case that's taking place in St. Kitts, where the MSR has taken the government of St. Kitts to court, challenging the legality of issuing the citizenships under the infrastructure program, and specifically to Galaxy. That's a very important case. Because MSR has provided as evidence 200 files of applications that were approved in St. Kitts that show that people did not pay the right price for the citizenship, but more importantly, that the government knew that. So the government was complicit in that. The St. Kitts government attempted to have the case thrown out. Last week, that decision was overruled, and the courts have allowed the case to continue. And so my understanding is that some of the information that MSR has as to the unlawful acts of government will now be made public very soon, and that case will go to court in October. But I want to say, in St. Lucia, we've become now accustomed to getting the warnings of a hurricane coming days in advance. And we see whether, in fact, the winds are getting stronger, whether it's actually becoming a Category 1 or a Category 2 or a Category 3 hurricane. We don't know exactly where it's going to go, but if we think it's close to coming to us, we tell everybody to be on alert and to prepare themselves. I say that because that's exactly what's taking place in CIP. There are all kinds of alarm bells that are going on that are warning us that there is a major hurricane coming. And our government continues to live in denial and to tell us there's nothing for us to worry about. We saw in the case of Canada that years ago they took away visa-free access and have now changed it to a visa waiver program. We just saw in the last year that in the case of Dominica, the United Kingdom and Ireland have suspended their visa-free access to Dominica. We're seeing that the Bank of America just announced that they're going to not process any applications for CIP in Dominica. And the question then becomes, are those things going to happen to us? Because exactly what caused the problem in Dominica in the first place is exactly what's taking place in St. Kitts and for sure here in St. Lucia, because I can speak for St. Lucia. We see it. We see that this government has completely bastardized our CIP program. And they're using the exact same rhetoric. I heard a former prime minister say, look, our job was to collect the administrative fee, but how much the private sector wanted to sell it for was their business. That's wrong. If by statute you have to sell the citizenship for a certain price, you cannot sell it for less. Anything less than that would be illegal. So I want to say this. 3 years of this government has again proven they don't know how to govern this country. But it's worse than that. That this government is living in an environment of secrets, lies, and propaganda. And instead of protecting the people of this country, every single one of them, whether they are Flabo, Labor, Independent, it doesn't matter. Instead of protecting the livelihoods of the people of this country, instead, what are we seeing? We're seeing a government that is interested in protecting the victory, preserving the comrades. One set of rules for one set of people, another set of rules for another set of people. It was important for the chairman to make the statement that he made. United Workers' Party is working in conjunction with the leader of the opposition. As the leader of the opposition, it is the role of the office of the leader of the opposition to continue to hold this government accountable for governance. And so that the people of St. Lucia can see the truth for themselves. And I do that every day without fear of intimidation. Do we always get it right? No. But we will continue to obtain as much information as we possibly can and to provide it to the public of the St. Lucia and to hold this government accountable. But in the meanwhile, the party is getting ready. And as the chairman said, all of us are excited about the new slate of candidates that are coming up. Women, young people, established people in their careers, who themselves are being motivated by what? To build a better St. Lucia. To build a St. Lucia that St. Lucians' standard of living is improved. To improve the quality of healthcare, the quality of education. Why? To put every single St. Lucian in a position to compete globally, because that's who our enemy is. We need to go out and fight globally, because nobody is going to care about us. And I'm excited about meeting some of these people. I'm excited about the new persons that are entering into the United Workers' Party and the increase in the membership of the party. We just had elections. Several new chairpersons, new members coming, and the work that's taking place on the ground. United Workers' Party will prepare this party to represent this country and to take this country out of the malaise and to genuinely provide good governance. And that we can look back now at what we did in our track record. 5 to stay alive. And 5 for 5. Look how important today the promise of healthcare insurance is. This is a Labour Party that when they came in, dismissed the healthcare insurance as being pie in the sky. And just this week you heard the Minister of Health say what? We're having to look for healthcare insurance. We just don't know how to pay for it. We have gone backwards with St. Jude's. We've gone backwards with HIA Airport. We've gone backwards with the infrastructure in this country. We've gone backwards in wanting to grow this country so that there's opportunities for everyone. When we talk about festivals, the United Workers' Party is the one who saw the opportunity in Carnival and saw it as a platform to help develop young people and the entertainment industry. Not as a distraction. It's not what events are supposed to be used for, as distractions. And distractions for what? For a select group of comrades to get the contracts? We should all dismiss the criticisms. When I stood in front of Darren Sammy Stadium days before it was to begin, to question, if you knew over a year and a half ago that you were going to do the event, why is it on the eve of the event that you couldn't complete the works? And I'm putting the Labour Party on notice. I'm going up there tomorrow. And how much you want to bet that when I go up there tomorrow, I will still be able to film areas that are not complete? And we ask the question, where is the $80 million gone? Who got the contracts? So, the United Workers' Party is going to remain very focused on making sure that we're a viable alternative to the people of St. Lucia. And we're appealing to everyone. Have no fear. Fear not. Don't allow this government to intimidate you. Don't allow this government to use the offices of government to victimize you. Staying silent is not going to solve the problem. In fact, it's going to make the problem even worse. We've had 3 years, and already we can say, SOS, save our St. Lucia. WTF, where's the funds? And the secret lies and propaganda, it's time that we put an end to it. And the only way that we can put an end to it is to demand that this government go to the polls and allow the people to do the right thing. Thank you.
So there you have it, our political leader, leader of the opposition, Honorable Alan Chasney, speaking on governance and accountability. He has vowed that we will ensure that this government stays honest on a number of issues. We still need to know about the CIP funds. We still need to know about a range of issues, what's going on with the halls of justice, what's going on with GPH, and all of those issues. You, the people of St. Lucia, deserves the right to know. We don't believe that it is up to any investor to approve a government minister's information about our passports. So we will continue to be honest. And as we close, Dr. Ernest Hilaire, we want to ask you a very simple question. Have you spoken to Galaxy? Have they given you the permission to tell the people of St. Lucia where we are with the passports? We will continue to ask you that question. And we want to encourage the media at the next cabinet briefing. You need to ask Dr. Ernest Hilaire if he has gotten permission, as bizarre as the whole thing may sound, but you need to call his bluff, because what he did at the press conference was clearly try to divert from the issue. I want to thank you, the Facebook viewers, for joining us today. I'm going to just open the floor for any questions. If anybody has any questions, doesn't appear that the media may have any questions. Do you have a couple questions? Yeah, 2 questions.
There was some type of CIP allegations. I think you had said that it probably, I think, seek legal action to get the government to. What about that?
Okay, so leader of the opposition is being asked a question from the media about his promise to take legal action against the government pertaining to the way that they have governed the CIP.
Thank you. This will be very similar to the case that's taking place in St. Kitts, where it's a judicial review case, and we're actually preparing the documents for a filing to do exactly that. We have given this government, we think, sufficient time to have rectified the situation. So one, in signing the MOA, the Memorandum of Agreement with the OECS countries, they ought to have amended the regulations at that point. In fact, they have not done that. So we believe that the infrastructure program, as it currently is constituted or constructed, does not have the provisions, sufficient provisions, to allow that for the citizenship by investment unit to issue a citizenship. I mean, what's the criteria? Who's supposed to collect the money? Who's identifying who the developer is? What are the projects? So that means the CIP unit, in issuing the citizenship, has to have that information. And do you issue the citizenship before the work is done? On the promise that it's going to get done? Does that make sense? So we think that this is a legitimate case. We've given this government sufficient opportunity to resolve this issue. And again, of late, the government seems to do everything but answer the questions.
And the elections and the many choices you have, I guess, for candidates in various constituencies.
Repeat the question. I'll repeat it.
I know last year at the march that you all had down in the south, it was stated that the full slate of candidates would be presented before the end of this year. Is this what is going to happen, or can we see maybe in the next few weeks at least one or two of the candidates or one of the constituencies being presented?
So the question was that we had made a promise that we would start announcing candidates, if not the entire slate, before the end of the year. The answer is yes. The vast majority of candidates will be announced before the end of the year. There's some candidates who have applied and pending approval because they are working internationally. And so there's a conflict of them being public or even being active. So that's why, in a large part, we changed the process that we use to select our candidates, so that their first part really is an internal part. So a person can have a job on the outside, be involved in other things, and apply internally, and that's kept internally, and it's not like a runoff against each other, and that we're using polls and we're using other methodologies to make a determination who we think the best candidate is going to be. But we do have at least 2 candidates that I know of that I cannot announce by the end of the year, but we'll be able to announce shortly afterwards. But the majority of candidates will be announced before the end of this year, and some of them very soon.
The chairman in his statement mentioned that you are looking for honest people, and I think the solution public has had an issue with politicians, and you are essentially lumped together, that you are all the same. We've seen successive administrations, we've seen various examples of the dishonesty, we've seen clear evidence, others there are allegations. What are you going to do to ensure that this time around, that the men, you yourself, right, imagine one or two of you might be going up, but at least a political leader, that St. can get just that, noble men, noble women, honest, honorable, and who are deserving of that title, honorable?
So when I took over as leader of the United Workers' Party, one such person was Richard Fedrick. There were court cases that he had lost where he had threatened citizens, had shot up a water tank. There were videos of him in a drunken stupor kicking doors. And there were a bunch of other allegations. And certainly the biggest, the revocation of his U.S. visa. And the dispute that took place between myself as the political leader and Richard Fedrick was because I asked him to explain those things. I mean, nobody's perfect in life. Everybody is should be given a second chance, third chance sometimes. And he couldn't. And we asked him to leave the party. Well, we didn't actually ask him. We said to him that he could not run as a candidate for the party. And he took offense to that, and he decided to bash the party, and it ended up being our separation. There are examples where when I was in Prime Minister, that there were questions brought against the character or the actions of particular individuals, and I dealt with it right away. There was no hesitation. I didn't put my party first in that instance. I put the governing of the country first. Even though it may have been embarrassing to the party, it was more important to do what was right for the country. This is why I'm happy today that Guy Joseph would have said what he said. A special prosecutor has been brought on to clear the air because there were damning allegations made against Guy Joseph. We've investigated those allegations, and we have found no merit to them. We met with Guy. We asked him directly. So some of the things that he was being alleged, it was not even his ministry. Yet, there are too many people in St. Lucia who have believed those allegations. And that's why I'm saying from early, you hired a special prosecutor. You said you have had evidence against Guy Joseph. Let's not forget, they said they had evidence of corruption on the Rodney Bay Road. It's 3 years. Where is it? And that was Stevenson King, huh? That's what he said. That he had evidence of the corruption. They can't point to any corruption today. They said there was evidence of corruption on the HIA airport. Where is it? In fact, we went out of our way to make sure there could be no corruption by bringing OECC in, not to be the contractor. That's the point that everybody misses.
Explain OECC, sir.
Right? OECC is a construction company owned by the Taiwanese government and private sector persons in Taiwan that have done work in all the countries in which Taiwan is involved in. St. Vincent Airport, highways in Guatemala, all over the world. They're the ones building the airport back in Taiwan, in Taipei. And we brought them in to provide the oversight. And there was two things. One, to make sure that there was an independent entity to oversee all of the contracts and the costings for the project. So you had three entities, imagine, at the HIA airport. You had OECC. SLASPA then opened up its own development unit, and also an architectural firm from the United States was also brought in to provide oversight. All three entities had to sign off. Every single part of the HIA airport was put to tender. The Prime Minister said, there was cost overruns. Now he's clarified it. The cost overruns is that because now we moved the airport terminal to a new location and we had to put the piles there, he's saying that that was an unnecessary expense. And that's what he classifies as cost overruns. Then I cannot believe the Prime Minister sat in Parliament and tried to say to the people of St. Lucia what? That the cost of OECC, which was 8%, was increasing the interest rate for the loan to 14%. That's his words. That's embarrassing. The Prime Minister and Minister of Finance would even try to attempt to say that. The 8% fee that OECC is being paid for is 8% on the cost of the project. It's a one-time fee, not a fee you pay on a monthly basis. Doesn't it make sense to pay that fee? To bring in a proper company to provide independent oversight, and more importantly, a company of which the country that was going to lend us the money was lending us the money. So everybody would be no. But the point is the government said, despite all of those things, there was corruption. 3 years has gone by. Where's the corruption? Where's the corruption?
No, it's the same Moving forward with the people who's coming in, as I said, what is it that you're going to do? I mean, if you do form the next administration, your party forms the next administration, what are you going to do to ensure that your ministers, that your policies, that your actions in government is above board? What is it?
So a couple of things. The reporters asked, notwithstanding what I've said, that she's not hearing clearly us articulate what we're going to do. So part of what we did in the past is what we're going to do. We don't think that we did anything wrong, okay? But there are some things that we're going to change. So the first thing that we changed when we came into government last time, if you remember, was to change one of the statutes that took away the time limitation on holding public officers accountable. So now there's no longer any statute barring, from a time perspective, anyone who's found to be doing something guilty. So that should act as some level of incentive. I think that clearly the access to Public Information Act is something clearly I will support. So we are going to be meeting in terms of confirming our policies. I'm really very hopeful that that will be part of it. But I think in speaking to a lot of my members, they all agree. There has to be a change in the access to public information. I think that a lot of questions that would have been raised or concerns that would have been resolved if, in fact, there was genuine access to that public information. I think that it also needs to be a better check and balances. I'm concerned where I see certain public officers not acting, in my opinion, in the interest of the people, but acting more in the interest of the politicians. And so I think that the Public Service Commission or some kind of inquiry institution where immediate inquiries can be instituted to hold public officers more accountable. In the American system, we just saw what happened, where the director of the Secret Service was brought before a commission of the Congress, and within days she was forced to resign because of how she answered those questions. I think that there has to be some kind of structure put in place where public servants that are making questionable decisions ought to be immediately called to some kind of public commission to make that information publicly known without having to wait for a court hearing. So here it is, I had a court case, a judicial review on the customs matter. And the courts denied us having that day in court. And I think there's a lot of things that are in question. You have an attorney general involved in the case that was the lawyer for Ernest Hilaire. You have a new control of customs. You have the question as to whether, in fact, he was actually conducting the investigation or was it DPP. And that has not been clarified. So I think that there has to be some structures put in place to hold people, public servants, and politicians more accountable in that regard. So the source of information is something that we have to work on. And I would say to you, I don't want to get into what 361 attempted to do. So anytime you talk about anything to do with the media, immediately that's what people invoke 361. But I think there has to be some kind of criteria to help improve the quality of journalism in our country. And holding journalists and everybody else accountable to the information they're going to put out. And the defamation, the United Kingdom went to a new Defamation Act. We have to be able to be certain that information is being provided to the public. Every attempt to make it accurate is there. So I think that there are a lot of things on all sides. And from a party perspective, I can assure you, background checks, police records, endorsements by people from the community who knew them. There's a much deeper dive investigation that's going into persons. I mean, if you take a particular politician that came from Choiseul, it was years afterwards that it was uncovered that he had a different identity. Right? I mean, how does that happen? I think the DPP answered that question. You need to have independent, properly trained investigators. So when you're investigating matters of governance, accounting, lawyers, forensic audits, accountants, all should be made up part of that. There's a skill set that's required to do that. And while that investigation is being undertaken, that they don't impugn the reputation of somebody who may not have done something. So, Mr. Joseph said it right. I thought we lived in a society in which you were innocent until you were proven guilty, but it seems for some people it's that you're guilty before you're proven innocent. And so we have to be very careful. So I am very concerned that the special prosecutor, who the government has given credibility to, does he have the requisite resources? If the DPP's office is saying they don't, how is one person? The DPP said there needs to be an independent team. We had put an independent team in place. It was passed in cabinet for it to be given its own structure, because when it first started, those persons were operating out of the DPP's office. And when we got a legal opinion, it was said that they cannot be working out of the DPP's office. So it's an important role, but it has to be separate from the DPP. They provide the information. So there's a lot of things that we have to do. I'm proud of the fact that when we got into government last time, the first thing that we did was governance training. The difference between the role of ministers of government are to provide policy and oversight. When we're asking questions, we should be asking the question, are these policies and the manner in which the government entities are implementing them, are they having the effect they're supposed to have? Those are the things that a politician is supposed to do. A politician is not supposed to be directly involved. Does it require sometimes for a politician to be involved? Yes, but it should not be the majority of times. And to make sure that our boards are working properly, there's proper account. So here you have a situation where the CIP, by regulations, by act, is required to provide an audited report once a year within 3 months. It's not happened. So it has to be a two-year rule. Where is the pushback from society on something as basic as that? If there are rules to provide checks and balances, when we as a society don't enforce those through our voice, then we lose, because you can write whatever regulations you want to, but if they're not going to be enforced, and there are too many examples of rules that are in the public service that said, and he uses the word, you shall not do this, which means that there's no ambiguity, but it does not have a penalty associated to it.
So would you consider keeping the special office, but backed up with the necessary resources?
I certainly would work with the DPP, and he had some very strong opinions as to what he thought should be in place. And the role of the special prosecutor, really the role of the special prosecutor is if the government is going to be, if the DPP's office is going to take on a case that's going to require a lot more time, that's the role of a special prosecutor. To have a very specific thing they're going to do. But to say a special prosecutor, how the government has defined it, is going to actually do the investigations, maybe they have a different interpretation. And I'm holding them accountable to their interpretation. They said that they've brought in a special prosecutor to specifically look into the allegations of corruption that they made. Yes? So it's now been 3 years. He's been there for a year. Where is it? And as I said to you, what's more alarming to me is that some of the persons that made those allegations said it as if they knew it for a fact. Stephenson King, he said it for a fact. And people believed him because he was in my government. So you'd have thought immediately coming into government and being made a senior minister, that it would have been easy to prove the allegation of corruption at the Rodney Bay Road, to prove the allegation. These fell under him. So this is fluff and bluff, and I think that it should be equally criminal to go out and make statements, particularly in a position of where the public would have thought that you would have known, and for that information to be wrong, I think they're equally as guilty as if somebody had committed the act of fraud themselves. And that's why what Spider brought to attention today. I'm glad that Wallace was able to go and explain his story. But the information coming out of that is damning. It's not hearsay. The actual videotape, videos, audios of young persons discussing their relationship and what they did with those two individuals and saying that they were paid. Where's the outrage? Where's the outrage in St. Lucia? That's unbelievable. And if you remember, there was a second incident that took place almost a year or so afterwards, in which those same names were being circulated as paying the young lady. And as Spider said, the Prime Minister, his name was involved. And he made a promise repeatedly when he was in this position. And a journalist asked him the same questions you're asking us. His answer was what? Once somebody puts a finger on a minister of mine, I will deal with it. Well, you have a situation where a minister went on a TV show and made allegations that he got files from the police on individual citizens. Did he say anything? Benan's land. How much more information do you want? The land was sold, they claimed, to Reno Gajada. Yet the deed of sale is for Gift to Eugene. The lawyer for NLA, that's who, for National Housing, that's whose building they bought. You have a minister of government who said in an affidavit that Slasper was not interested in purchasing the land, yet there is evidence to show that Slasper was interested in purchasing the land. You have what's going on in NLA. You have what's going on at CIP. You have what's going on at GPH. Can anybody even explain to me what's going on in St. Jude's? Is it the people in the South matter not? 3 years. Does anybody know who the contractor at St. Jude's is and how much money they've spent? Does anybody know what the design for the new hospital is going to look like? Does anybody know how many CIP passports have been sold? Does anybody know what the status of the current commissioner of police is? Who is the commissioner? Who is the chairman of CIP? How is it that we're living in a society today we cannot answer those basic questions and not know that there's something fundamentally wrong in this country? We're not just criticizing for criticizing's sake, but we are going to put policies in place to prevent these kinds of things from taking place. But I want to say this to you because I know time has gone by and I don't want to overextend my time. I probably have already. Democracy is a two-way street. Democracy cannot work without people's involvement in it. So a government Constitution puts rules which prevents a government from using its authority to intimidate, right, and threaten individual citizens. So the moment that any of us feel victimized in our own country, that's a red flag that there's something wrong. So to your question, we need to figure out when a citizen raises that red flag, who do they go to? So right now, the only entity in St. Lucia that's standing up and talking about these issues is the opposition. Now, privately, a lot of people are talking about it. So if we look at the United States situation, when Biden was too old, not many people wanted to say that publicly. But some did. But I can say to you in St. Lucia, going around privately, there are a lot of people complaining about what's currently taking place in St. Lucia. But people are genuinely terrified. And I just want to say to my friends and persons who have come to me and spoken to me about these issues, not saying anything is not the solution. So sometimes democracy can be messy. But we have to learn how to hold our government accountable, especially if it's supposed to be representing us. And all too often, I want to say this, not enough education, and that's government's fault, on what our Constitution is. We're not having enough discourse among ourselves as to what democracy is. And we're also clearly not having enough of a discourse as to how is a country supposed to be run in order to achieve my own individual benefits. So in speaking to a lot of people in St. Lucia, money. Money is the biggest issue right now. People don't think that they're earning enough money to live life properly. Can't afford health care, can't afford to buy a home, can't afford to travel. They see on TV other luxuries and other people living a particular way. They have tourists who are coming here who are obviously living a different lifestyle. And rightfully they want that. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, how do we achieve that? Do we have to make sacrifices? So right now, today, what I can say to you without fear of contradiction, the manner in which this government is running the country, they are lying to all of us. They're putting and doing things to benefit a very few group of a very small portion of the people in this country. And they're wasting a lot of money. How much money is the West Coast Road and the Millennium Highway going to cost us in cost overruns? How much is the Rodney Bay Road? How much is HI Airport? Now that's money that we're paying because somebody couldn't make the right decision. Millions and millions and millions of dollars is just being wasted. $80 million in NLA. When you're now going to pay for halls of justice 3 times the construction cost. And just by the fact you have to pay $16 a square foot tells you how expensive it is. Who's paying for that? We are all paying for it. And that's money that could have been going to many other uses.
The $16 a square foot is not construction, it's rent, right?
The cost to repay the building is $16 a square foot for 12 years. In rental fees. It is true. The cost of building the building is $144 million, which is 3 times the cost of any other building, the most expensive building in St. Lucia. 3 times. You then have $20 million to put all the furniture in and put all the equipment in and all the telecommunications and to pay for the financing during the 2 years. And then the cost of the financing of the building is another $150 million. So the total cost of the project is $292 million. Now, Ernest Hilaire said that the Higher Mall was the most expensive rent in St. Lucia. It's $4 a square foot. So this rent is 4 times the amount of Higher Mall for the same size building. You don't think that something is wrong? And where's that money going? And it's the people who are having to pay for it. And then the people having to pay for it, that's their future. The future of our children, our desire to have a better standard of living are all being leveraged by a government that is lying to us, that are corrupt to the bone. And there are multitude examples to show how corrupt and how fraudulent this government is running. And I can say that outside of Parliament without any fear, because all of the evidence is there. And the question is, why are we refusing to see the evidence at hand? Why are we refusing to hold this government more accountable? And that's why it's important that I say to all of us in St. Lucia today, United Workers' Party understands the responsibility that we have to prove to the people of St. Lucia that we're ready to govern, and then hopefully to hold this government to a much lesser time than necessary, because every day that they're in is getting worse. Thank you.
Thank you there, Mr. Political Leader, Leader of the Opposition, and the next Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Honorable Alan Chasney, for a comprehensive account on what is taking place. We have more work to do. On Thursday, we want to ask you to join us live at 8:30 for our roundtable. We'll have a very fascinating and intriguing discussion on a range of issues, from the CIP to the government ministers who have conspired to blackmail another sitting government minister for political benefit. We'll be talking about a whole host of issues that matter to you, the people of St. Lucia, the cost of living in the country, the crime situation in the country. We have today in Babino, another homicide, as well preceding that a police shooting in Ancillary. We have to rescue our country from this Labour Party administration that has failed us over the last 3 years. We also have on Sunday a live coming to you. We will be giving you the stations that you can tune in and the various social media platforms. Definitely, please tune in to the United Workers' Party website and Facebook page. Those of you who will be listening or looking at it virtually, you can also tune in on the Leader of the Opposition's page. You can tune in on my page. And a whole host of other platforms will be coming to you live as we do our own report card of this government's continued failure over the last 3 years. Meet the Opposition is tomorrow with your special host, Spider. That's tomorrow from 9 a.m. on Rev Up St. Lucia. That Facebook page there as well. It will also be on the United Workers' Party Facebook page. So we have a very packed week of exciting opportunity. We will be on the ground in Viewfort this afternoon to fellowship with the constituency branch of Viewfort to ensure that that branch is election ready. We know that the opposition, they are trembling. They have seen what has happened in the United States. The news we've received from Reuters suggests that Kamala Harris has just eclipsed Donald Trump by 2% in 3 short days. So we are feeling that same level of momentum in the United Workers' Party as well. There's confidence building. As the chairman and the political leader said, we have a very exciting slate of young, dynamic, able, capable people that have applied. Several of them have actually been approved by their constituency branches, and it's only a matter of time that the political leader will make those intriguing announcements. I want to thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow on Meet the Opposition from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Rev Up St. Lucia and on the Round Table. Thank you.